In Sicily, a mafia boss named Lorenzo Vitali arrives at his vineyard with his grandson, only to discover numerous dead bodies scattered around. He enters the house alone and finds three of his henchmen holding Robert McCall at gunpoint. When Vitali questions McCall's presence, McCall responds that he's there for something that was wrongly taken by them. McCall warns them to back off within 9 seconds, but when they don't, he kills them and leaves Vitali injured. As he's leaving, Vitali tries to shoot him with a shotgun, but McCall retaliates and kills him. As McCall is leaving with a bag, Vitali's grandson spots him. McCall advises him to stay in the car, but the boy shoots McCall in the leg and flees. McCall manages to drive a distance before passing out from his injury. He's found by a police officer named Gio Benucci, who takes him to a local doctor, Enzo Orizio. Enzo instructs Gio to tell anyone who asks that McCall had an accident. After a few days, McCall wakes up in the town of Altamont. He befriends Enzo, who arranges accommodation for him, and he also becomes friends with Gio and his daughter Gabby. McCall starts frequenting a local cafe and befriends an employee named Amina. When Enzo questions whether McCall is a good or bad person, McCall admits he's uncertain. He's haunted by memories of his deceased friend Susan Plummer and the men he killed at the vineyard. McCall later gets in touch with the DIA and has a conversation with Emma Collins. He informs her about his findings at a vineyard in Sicily and encourages her to look into it. Accompanied by her partner Frank Conroy and a team, Collins discovers 11 million euros and a large amount of narcotics at the vineyard. She later finds McCall in Altamont and begins discussing the vineyard findings with him. In Altamont's market, a bully named Marco Quaranta is causing trouble for a fish seller named Angelo, demanding that he fulfill his request the next time he comes. Marco and his brother Vincent are the leaders of the Camorra, a mafia group that instills fear in Altamont. During a meeting with a couple who refuse to transfer their property for Vincent's hotel project, Marco responds by throwing and hanging the wife's wheelchair-bound father from a window. His body is left as a warning for the other residents. While investigating Mafia Group, Gio receives a call informing him that Gabby left school early. When he questions her teacher, he learns that one of his officers picked her up. Rushing home, Gio finds Gabby and his wife Chiara held hostage by Marco and his henchmen, who threaten Gio to keep him out of their affairs. In the evening, McCall observes people fleeing at the sound of a bell. Angelo's store has been set ablaze, and he and his wife can do nothing but watch their business burn. McCall spots Marco and his gang observing the chaos from a distance, and he identifies them as the culprits. Collins comes across a news report about a terrorist attack in Rome, which is attributed to Syrian terrorists. However, based on her discussions with McCall and the discovery of the Syrians' drugs at the vineyard, she suspects that the Syrians are not responsible. She shares her suspicions with Conroy, believing that this is part of a larger scheme. Indeed, Vincent is seen discussing with Marco their plans to monopolize the entire coast with their businesses, indicating that the terrorist attack was a part of their strategy. Collins gets caught in an explosion near her car in the city, but she survives and is taken to the hospital. Marco approaches Gio at a restaurant where he is dining with his family, trying to persuade him to acquire boats from Somalis. Marco notices McCall watching him and decides to confront him. McCall warns Marco about the consequences if he continues to threaten the family, and he grabs Marco's wrist, applying pressure to a nerve that causes him pain until Marco orders his gang to leave the restaurant. Outside, Marco plans to strike back, but his plans are thwarted when one of his gang members is run over by a van, with the driver another gang member already eliminated by McCall. McCall takes out the remaining gang member before engaging Marco in a fight, during which he breaks Marco's arm and forces him to stab himself, resulting in his death. Upon learning about his brother's death, Vincent receives a visit from Chief Barella, who seems to be associated with the Camorra. When Barella threatens him, Vincent retaliates by stabbing Barella's hand and instructing his henchmen to sever it completely before sending Barella to the hospital for reattachment. Following this incident, Vincent plans his revenge. Vincent and his gang then head to Altamont to confront Gio. They fire a gun close to Joe's ear and threaten to kill him and his family unless the person responsible for his brother's death comes forward. McCall steps in and offers himself to Vincent, asking him to spare the others. Before Vincent can harm McCall, Enzo intervenes by firing his own rifle. The townsfolk then start recording the criminals with their phones, forcing them to retreat before the police arrive. Vincent retreats to his compound and starts planning an attack on Altamont the following day. However, McCall locates them first and begins to eliminate them one by one. Vincent is awakened by the blood of one of his henchmen dripping on him from the ceiling before the body crashes through the glass. In his attempt to escape, Vincent is knocked out by McCall. When he regains consciousness, he discovers that McCall has administered a lethal dose of the drugs found at the vineyard, leaving him with only a few minutes before his heart stops. Vincent tries to flee into the street with McCall trailing behind him, but he is hit by a car. He manages to stumble a bit further before he finally succumbs to his injuries. McCall pays a visit to Collins in the hospital where she is recuperating. He confesses to her that his true motive for coming to Sicily was to recover stolen pension money for an acquaintance. He leaves Collins with a bag filled with the retrieved money. Collins then travels to Boston to meet the man McCall had mentioned. The man and his wife are overwhelmed with emotion and gratitude upon discovering that their lost money has been recovered. Upon returning to work, Collins receives a small black book from McCall containing records of all his personal meetings. The book comes with a note that reads, "Your mother would be so proud of you." Collins then glances at a photo on her desk, revealing that she is the daughter of Susan. Meanwhile, McCall decides to stay in Altamont and participates in the local celebrations following their football team's victory.